Can you just talk us through your selection process? Was it an easy squad to select for this game, given the events the last couple of weeks, put those players out that lost in Sydney?
Oh, it's never easy. Selection always, you're looking at a whole lot of variables. One variable we looked at is just, I guess, like you said, is just a chance for a group to go out and learn from an experience that didn't go our way, but to apply those lessons. And I think when you look at particularly our backs, we've followed through with that. But I think we've also aware of the I guess the length of being away, and particularly in our forwards, adding a couple of new people in there and changing things up in a couple of positions. I think it's going to freshen our energy level up, and plus the other selection thing we worked hard on was the impact off the bench. It's going to be hot tomorrow night and on Saturday night, and having the ability to have a bench with a lot of impact is also part of the strategy.
Can you just talk through Akira and what you want to see out of him against some combative Argentine loose forwards, please?
Yeah, Akira's got size. He's trained well. We've spoken before about, we're pleased with him in Brisbane, and that got cut short. So it's just a chance for him to continue in that space.
You mentioned, obviously, you haven't changed the starting backline. Was there a temptation to mix things up there, or are you comfortable with that 9 to 15 mix?
Oh, look, there's always there's a lot of plenty of talk about it, but it's because quite frankly, we didn't quite get what we wanted out of that group. But we just feel that they've had time together, lots of learning since then. We've, I guess, tweaked a couple of things on the bench with the return of TJ and with Will Jordan coming in. So there's a few little changes there, but again, I guess it's a vote of confidence in that group, but also with a lot of pressure to let's really work on improving our option taking.
Geordie obviously retains his spot. How important might his goal kicking be, given what we saw last weekend in Newcastle, where there was no tries from either side? Could get into a sort of penalty goal slugfest again.
Yeah, it's certainly a big factor, Elliot. And it's particularly with the heat, the humidity we saw last Saturday night, that it did turn into a kicking fest at Newcastle. We still want to play, but we're aware of the kicking game and aware that Argentina haven't really played a lot in their own half and have kicked the ball down to us, and so having a long return kicking game is also important. But yeah, that's a good point about the goal kicking. It's something that's been factored in.
And just finally from me, John Plumtree said on Tuesday that you've been sort of refereeing some sessions and playing a sort of bit of bad cop. Can you expand on that, please, and what your role, what you've been trying to do in those sessions?
Yeah, look, it's just clearly the off the ball stuff has almost been a feature of this whole tournament, and we've had to adjust. We've taken some lessons in there. We've had a few apologies from the refs for some decisions, but reality is we've got to learn to control ourselves and be in charge of our own discipline. So it's been an area we've used a variety of techniques, one of which is me refereeing, but just a variety of techniques just to highlight areas that we can be we need to show a lot more composure, and hopefully that shines through on Saturday.
Ian, Andrew Saville, is it getting an apology post-match from the officials? Does that make it any easier? Does it wash with you?
It is what it is. Doesn't change anything for Saturday. We've got to be better at what we can control.
The Argentinians are obviously going to be emotional and fired up anyway, but then you have Diego Maradona's passing today. What sort of effect do you think that's going to have on them?
Oh, look, it's hard to say from our perspective, but I mean, clearly, it's a sad day for Argentina as a nation, and I guess, all we can do is, we commiserate with them. He's an iconic sporting person, and clearly had a lot of meaning for the people of Argentina. So, we just acknowledge that. Clearly for when you're going into a game, you're the next big game off the track for that country. It's going to have some emotional appeal, but that's something that they will deal with and they'll control. We've got to control our own emotions, and we've got plenty of reasons and plenty of determination to play for our country as well, and representing our people and doing what we need to do to fix up a performance 2 weeks ago is pretty high on our list.
How has the week been? Just finally from me, how's the week been compared to other weeks? Can you feel as though everyone is getting to the end of the tether or end of what has been a bizarre year?
Yeah, look, I think the last test always brings a whole lot of emotion. This has been, been made a little bit different again by having sort of a so-called bye week before it. So it has been a long couple of weeks, but it's also been a valuable time for us to take some lessons and learnings and keep working on some stuff. So, it is the end of a long season and an absolute unique season that hopefully never gets repeated again, from a whole lot of health reasons with COVID. But it doesn't change the fact that we've got a test match that we've got to perform at, and we've got another opportunity to actually finish this year on the level we want to, and plus, we've got a chance to win the championship that we're playing in, and that means a lot to us.
Hey, Fozzie, Ollie here. Just wondering around sort of the physicality. We saw a lot of that from the Argentines a couple of weeks ago. They really fronted up physically, and you talk about bringing Akira in there with his size and strength, I suppose. Has the physicality around breakdown and the collision been talked about and addressed as a bit of a work on for you guys?
Look, it's always addressed every week, Ollie. It's not something new. We've felt we've reached some really good levels this year in that space, particularly early in this championship. We certainly faded away a little bit in that last game, which was frustrating. But you've also got to weigh up that versus the decision making, and sometimes if you choose the wrong decisions in the game tactically, you end up hitting walls, and the physicality side of the game gets really compromised because you go with our strong. And I thought that's what happened 2 weeks ago, is that we weren't smart enough. We didn't use enough of our kicking options. We didn't maximise opportunities we had in the early phases to play against them and to go where space was. And that's been our primary focus, and the physicality stuff, whilst it's a constant work on, and we believe if we get some better decisions and more variety, that stuff looks after itself with this team.
There's obviously pressure to perform and win every time the All Blacks take the field, and maybe that's heightened now after a couple of losses. But do you think this team kind of walks towards that pressure and almost embraces that pressure? I suppose, can you use that kind of to your advantage, if you get what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. It's it's the challenge you don't want, but it is a massive challenge, and the group love that. But it's also for a number of younger players in this group, it's kind of first time they're sort of feeling that sort of adversity and the pressure of having to respond as an All Black. So there's a large part of this group that's you can feel are really excited about the challenge, and a smaller part of just learning what it's like to be in this camp when expectations haven't been met. So it's been a great learning point, but for us now it's really turned into excitement, to be honest. I mean, we've got a chance to win a championship, to fix up a performance, and hopefully to do our country proud, and that's really what our goal is.
Just lastly from me, I wonder if you could talk through the selection of Scott coming into lock with Paddy moving to the bench. What are you looking for out of Scott this weekend?
Look, Scott's, clearly he's had a couple of stints with us, coming back from long term. He's had a stint off the bench, had a start, and we rested him last time just to make sure that he was 100%, and so it's a chance to inject some fresh energy with him. I know he's excited about that. And it's also, like Paddy's had a massive season when you go back to the start of this year. And he's been fantastic for us. But we just felt he was a little bit flat in the last game. And by injecting Scott now and giving Paddy a run off the bench, I think not only do we get the best opportunity for Scott to have an opportunity, but we also get a chance to really boost up our bench. And when you look at the temperatures likely to be last test of the year, the physical challenge of the Argentinians, I think the influence of the bench in that last third of the game is going to be vital.
Ian, just you spoke a wee bit about the pressure on the team there, and I guess that can move into anxiety, and if things don't go your way on the field, players can tighten up and not see opportunities and things like that. How do you avoid, that being a burden and then staying in the moment? What's your general message to the team around those sorts of things, dealing with the pressure and anxiety that comes with, after a couple of losses and needing to perform?
Well, look, I think the anxieties and the tension and what you're talking about's there every time you play in an All Black jersey. It's, just because, obviously there's, people get very disappointed when we do have a loss, and I understand all that, but inside this camp, it's, we just got to process that and take the lessons and then go forward and know that what we need on the park is we just need to be really clear about what we're doing, and then trust ourselves and trust the guy next to you. And that are the clear messages. You can't get hooked up in the past. You can carry the hurt around for a while, but that doesn't help you going into the next game. So, we've made sure that we've had some hard conversations about where we didn't feel we're up to our level, but at the same time, you still want to empower players to go out and play and trust themselves, and that's what we need to do Saturday. But that gets tested every test match. That's why, that's why it's called a test match, and we've got no doubt that the Argentinians will have their moments, and we've just got to be smarter and more controlled how we deal with those, and just go back to what we know and what we trust.
And just on a personal level, I guess you've copped a bit of heat. Do you block that out? Do you embrace it? I'm sure you knew going into the role that would come, but after a couple of losses, it's dialed up a fair bit. How are you feeling going into this game?
Oh, I'm the same as the team. It's you get what you get in this business, and no one else defines who you are and what you believe in. So you make your own choices. It's what's been said has been said, and clearly internally we've got our own standards that we want to meet, and when we don't get to that level, then clearly it's going to come down on me, and I understand that. But it doesn't change the fact that I'm excited about this week. It's got a lot of belief in these guys, this group. I know that there's some areas that we're learning and growing as a group, and making really good progress, but we've got to prove that on the park, and it has to be Saturday.
Just lastly, the 10-15 axis, bit of debate about whether you'd continue with that. What's your sort of sense of how that's progressing and where that's all at?
Oh, look, I was delighted with it 3 weeks ago. I think since then, I didn't think the last game we were clear enough. But, I don't think you can blame the 10-15 excess for that. You've got to blame a whole range of things. But, clearly we put a lot of onus on getting our strongest and clearest decision makers on the park. And when we don't make good decisions in attack, then that's where the finger gets pointed. But, it's progressing. We like it for now. And I've said all along, it's not fixed long term, but it's something that right now we feel is the right thing for this All Black team.
Thank you.
Ian, it's Mel Woods from AAP. I just wondered, with the temperature, I think it's supposed to be around like 37. Is there any scope for more drink breaks, or is that anything that you would sort of, talk to officials about? Because obviously they're unusual temperatures.
Yeah, no, good question. I think, Mel, is that I think it falls outside the criteria for drink breaks. I know there are player safety regulations regarding heat, and that we expect by 7:45 local kickoff time that it's going to be a lot cooler and outside those parameters. But certainly it does mean that our whole hydration program has to be done really, really well, like pre-game and during game, and it's something we're working on.
Mark here. Geordie Barrett is one of only 2 players you've picked to start every single test this year, all 6. I think 5 of those 6 have been on the right wing. His last test he ran for 2 metres on 3 carries, and over his last 2 tests he's had 17 metres on 13 carries. What do you need to see from your whole team to make him more effective in that position?
Oh, look, we got to be able to create space. We didn't put either of our wings into many open field opportunities last week. I mean, Caleb was the same and really didn't get too many opportunities. If you look at, I guess you look at the first 3 tests, then Geordie played, scored 3 tries and really dealt with the right wing particularly well. I felt it wasn't his best game when he went to fullback in Brisbane, and really we feel in the conditions we've got, we do trust his kicking game, and his decision making with his brother at the back, but from a right wing perspective, it's the same as expect out of any wings. The wings are often their performance is often the great indication is how well our midfield has seen space inside and how well we're giving go forward ball, and that's where it's going to start.
Yeah, just a second part of that then, you've kept your faith in your midfielders. What do you want to see from them to be more effective this week than they have been in recent weeks?
Probably just answered that, to be honest, Mark. They just got to, they got to carry when it's on to carry, but they've also got to, we've just got to keep working at seeing the opportunities. We're seeing a very strong defensive pattern from the Argentinians, where they really rely on a lot of work on the ground at ruck time to slow your ball down, and then they get a very wide flat line, and there isn't a lot of space available. And so it's not so much the line speed, it's more about the wide flat line in front of us. So we've got to be smart about using when it's time to offer variations. It can't just be a kicking game from a 10, it's got to come from different people, and and other sort of opportunities that we just got to keep growing in our midfield.
Thank you.
Any last questions, or we'll wrap up there? I think I heard somebody.
Joe, sorry, Joe. Chris Doran here from Rugby.com. And just following up on Liam's question, just about yourself, have you had anyone actually reach out, or former coaches, Steve Hansen, get in touch about lending their support to you and at all?
Oh, look, you hear from a whole lot of people, whether you win or lose in this business. There's a lot of passion, and I guess when you lose, there's a lot of negativity around, and I get that. But behind the scenes, there's a massive degree of support, from ex-All Blacks, people who can see what's going on and know what it's like. It's not like this is an All Black loss is a totally new thing. People know how much it hurts, and so the support's been fantastic behind the scenes. And that's not just for me, but that's for the other coaches, management, and for our leaders as well. So, because often the leaders of the player leadership is a group that also feels it really heavily, and I know they've been well supported.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll
just got one last question, Ian. Sorry, it's Richard Nola here. Just going back to off the ball stuff, what threshold do the All Blacks forwards have before they react? And I know you don't want to, and I know how important discipline is, but what do you want to see as a coach when the Argentina have such a knack of getting under other teams' skins? What's the key here?
Well, the key, Richard, is to be smart, and there's an emotive reaction, isn't there, that everyone wants, but World Rugby has come out apparently in the last week and said that if the retaliation is at a level above what the initial prodding is, then the retaliator is going to get penalised, and it's so for them that's reasonably clear. The problem with that strategy is that it just keeps encouraging people for little wee cheap shots and that before, and trying to provoke you. So look, it's a niggly part of the game. It seems to been a feature of this series, particularly the last 2 or 3 weeks. And but we can't go in with an excuse of being surprised, can we? Because it's going to happen. And if it does, we just got to make sure that our response to that is within the bounds that the law allows us.
Just one last thing on that. That edict was sent out by World Rugby this week. Was it just all your coaches and all the teams, was it?
Oh, I've just picked that up from a conversation with the refs that's how they're defining it. That if your retaliation's at a level above what the original act is, that's when they're going to penalise the retaliator. Otherwise, they say they're going to pick up the first person. So see what happens.
Okay, just one last thing.
Again?
This might seem a bit of a curious question, but would you like your guys perhaps to get the first shot in to beat them again? Why not?
Look, we've got to be precise and physical by doing what our job is, and like it's if we get, I think we saw a team that got distracted by it last time, and it was wearing a black jersey, and we've got to make sure that doesn't happen again.